and a very warm welcome from a sunny and cloudless Rio de Janeiro. We're at Santos Dumont Airport, like Code Sierra Bravo Romeo Juliet. This is payware by Tropical Sim, although a nice freeware version of Santos Dumont is available at flightsim.to. I'll put a link to that and to our destination Congonhas, Sierra Bravo Sierra Papa, in the description of this video. We're going to be flying the Asobo working title Cessna Citation CJ4 from Santos Dumont to Congonhas. It's a very capable aircraft. It has the working title mods already built into it, so you don't need any extras. So we're parked on the apron at Santos Dumont, and we can see Sugarloaf Mountain, which is situated just at the end of runway 20 left and right. So it's an immediate left turn after takeoff. At the top of Sugarloaf Mountain there's a cable car station that takes tourists up for a spectacular view of Rio. We've got Christ the Redeemer statue that overlooks the city, and to the north we've got Galileo Sierra Bravo Golf Lima International Airport and the Niterói Bridge that spans the entire bay. Very picturesque, outstanding in fact. So we'll take a quick look at the route. Here we've got Brazil. Let's just zoom in a little bit. So we've got Rio de Janeiro over here and Sao Paulo. Zooming into Sao Paulo, we've got Guarulhos International Airport and Congonhas here in the city centre, built on a hill 2,500 feet up. It's got a bit of a checkered past, one or two notable accidents. I'm sure you can Google those. And we've got it's a fairly short route, but we've got a departure SID, and that takes you initially a left turn out over the bay past Sugarloaf, then a right turn and further right turn, and then we've got a very short cruise segment and a star and arrival into Congonhas and an ILS which begins with the left base. It's all very tight and it'll happen all rather quickly, but we'll look at these in more detail a little bit later on. So this is the default Cessna Citation CJ4 by Asobo and working title. I've got the Woozle mod installed, a link is in the description, and this adds a little bit of eye candy. Let's get inside the aircraft. So developer camera off, and we'll just sit ourselves in the back. And the first things we see is the interactive in-flight map, which adds the route. It connects to SimBrief and shows you where you are, your altitude, gives you a little bit about information about the CJ4 in general, and it's interactive, and it's a nice feature to have. Then we've got the door, and the door you can actually open, so you click on the handle and then you click on the stair, and that then opens up. Then you've got passengers in the back, and you can switch them off. You've got window blinds, electronic window blinds. At the touch of a button they'll close and open. It's rather good fun really. And you've got some more candy like cushions that you can get rid of. The passengers, as I said, you can remove them. And if we just go and sit with the passengers, you've got the tray tables and some items on the trays. So here's the tray table, and I'll put the laptop where it belongs. There you go. And I think you can actually close the lid of the laptop. I'm not quite sure where the click spots are. Oh, there it is. And yeah, we'll stow the tray tables for takeoff, shall we, passengers? And yeah, how do you do that? Where's the click spot? I think, oh, here it is. It's on the seam of the... There it is. So you've got some tray tables and window blinds and passengers and cushions, enough stuff to keep you entertained. Let's just close the aircraft up come the steps, close the door by clicking on the recess in the door, and we'll go and sit ourselves up front. So let's hide the yoke, and we'll get the avionics and battery fired up. Now the battery has two positions. One is fully on and the other is emergency, and the avionics switch also has two positions. So if you flick them up, they go to their normal position, but if you flick them both down, they go to their emergency and their dispatch settings, and that just gives you one screen and the captain's FMC. And the idea behind it is so you don't discharge your battery. There was an ECAM message, it's the emergency light, so we'll just click that on. Okay, so in the FMC it starts off on status page 1 of 2, and you can go to POS init, right 6, and all you need to do is click right 4, which will then populate right 5 with the current GPS position. Done. There you go, that's simple. Okay, so we've done that, and now we can add the fuel, and the fuel in the Cessna Citation CJ4 you add to the normal weight and balance menu, and SimBrief was showing in kilos 1186, so we'll just move the fuel slider and let's have a look what we've got. Yeah, that's close enough, that'll do nicely, thank you. I will accept that. And what we need to do now is we're in the POS init page. We'll go to the index page, and you get to the index page either by hitting the IDX button on the left hand side, and when we're in the index page you can see it's one of 2 pages. We go to the next page by pressing previous or next, go to settings, and you make sure that your SimBrief user ID is populated in left 3, because when you do that and you go to the index page right 6, page 1 of 2, you can do the route menu, flight plan recall, and it brings in the current flight plan from SimBrief, and there it is. We just press execute. That's now in. Next thing we need to do is to enter the departure and arrival information, so there's a departure arrival button on the FMC, and we need the FCO 1 Charlie, NACSOP transition, runway 20 left. Okay, then we hit EXE, then back to the departure arrival index, left 6, then it's departure, it's the SBSP arrival, and now we need the Octa 1 Alpha, which is there, left 5, and it's the IBDEL transition, and on the right hand side the ILS X-ray 17 right with the Congonhas transition. So that's all taken care of. Each of these, the star and the approach, have a transition. So we've got those selected, press execute, and then we go to the legs page and we just look through to see if there's any discontinuities. And in the CJ4, to get rid of the discontinuities, you move the waypoint below the disco up into the disco and then press execute. Next page, and that's it for discos. So we're all good there. Legs page, and go back to the start. Now we've got that done, we can go to the perf, and the first thing we want to go to is the perf init, and you'll see that it's got the fuel that we added through the weight and balance menu, but the zero fuel weight you add directly into the FMC. And on my sim brief that was showing 5602. That goes into right 3. Press execute, and that's sort of, we got the fuel and the zero fuel weight. Okay, next takeoff. Oh no, we need to do the VNAV setup first. And here we've got 3 pages, 1 of 3, and here we put the transition altitude for rear, which is 7,000. So we enter that into the scratch pad and then into right 1. Then we do next page. Here we put the cruise altitude. 360 is probably a bit optimistic. We'll go 300, I think. 300. That goes into right 1. Now we do page 3 of 3, and the transition at Sao Paulo is 8,000. So that goes into right 1, 8,000. Okay, execute. And now we can go to Perth Init and takeoff. Now here we need to populate the weather into the FMC. So we go to the flights, airports. You select the airport. Here we're interested in Rio de Janeiro and Santos Dumont. Then you click on the weather, and we've got the wind. Then we got the pressure, and we got the temperature. So we need to populate those in. So first of all, the wind. So that was 320 at 5. That goes right 1. Temperature 25. That goes into right 2. And we need the QNH, which was 1012. And that goes into right 3. And you also need to put a slope. And the slope at Santos Dumont is, there is no slope, so it's 0.0. That goes into left 4. And you can get the slope information from the charts. Right, so takeoff reference, 1 of 3 pages. Now we go to page 2. And here you'll see that it's got the V speeds, but also something else. Left 4 shows you the takeoff run required and the takeoff run available. So 713. And you've got 1329. Okay, so we're going to rotate halfway down the runway, but that's with the packs off. Let's try with the packs on. So we click left 1, packs on, and it's now saying 735 meters needed, and we've got 1329 available to us. So that's fine, we can take off with the packs on. So we've got the V speeds on the right, and we've got 98, 100, 113, and flaps up 140. And what we're going to do now is hit the send button, and what that does is populate the PFD. When we get the avionics on, you'll see those reference speeds over here in the tape, in the speed tape of the PFD. Okay, and the flaps up speed 140 is going to happen very, very quickly. Right, so next legs page, and what we need to do, we got to get the nav lights on, and we'll put the cabin lights on as well, and the panel lights, so we can hopefully see some of the labels a bit better. Passenger signs can come on, and I think we're pretty much ready now. We're going to get the battery on, that goes up, and the avionics on, that goes up. And when you do that with the avionics, it has to align, and it doesn't take very long, so it's about 30 seconds. So while that's aligning, we can have a quick look around to see where we need to push back up. We've got the standby AI to switch on, that's the middle but switch below the battery, and we can pre-plan our pushback. These are very expensive, don't want to scratch it, I guess, so we'll just pre-plan the pushback. In fact, we'll do a manual pushback, I think, just a short pushback doesn't take long to start the engines on this. It's now aligned, so we'll just do a manual pushback and we'll release the parking brake. Oh, we get the beacon light on, release the parking brake, which is this plunger at the bottom. Okay, and we should have the rampy now pushing us. Let's have a look if I can hit the reverse button. There we go. Oh, he's decided not to join us. Oh, that's fine. Pay your landing fees, that's what you get. Goodness me. I wasn't asking too much, was I? Oh, well, never mind. We're just going to do a short push and we'll start pushing on those to the north. Oh, you're copying what we're doing. I don't know. We're in Brazil. Different world. Oh, we got our own rampy up here now. Oh, I don't know what's going on. These ramp agents. They're all over you. Okay, so we'll stop the pushback around here. And we'll hit the stop pushback. Okay, he should disappear. Get our parking brake on. Off he goes, so we can now get rid of the pushback helper. And we'll get the engines fired up. So, it's a two-stage process. You've got a stop button for left and for engine 1 and engine 2. They're guarded, and after you've hit that guarded button, you press the starter, which is below the throttle. So, you click on the start, you unguard it, you press stop to get run, you guard it, then you press the starter, and the rest is automatic. You just watch the N2 rise, you'll see oil temperature and oil pressure on the increase, you'll get the ignition, and then you'll see light up, and then the big fan. It's still a turbofan engine, quite a small one, but it's still a turbofan, so you get the M1 rotation as well. And then when the ignition goes out, that's a good start. And it doesn't take long, as I said. The ignition will go out very, very soon. Okay. Now we do the same in engine number 1, so we unguard it, press the stop button to get run, close it up again, press the starter. Okay, so N2 is rising, get the ignition up, we'll see oil temperature and oil pressure on the rise. Now we should see light up, there we go, and the fan will turn, and that should be a good start. While we're waiting for that, we'll get the heading knob sorted out. We're going to move that to 200, which says the runway heading. You can read it on the PFD and on the nav display. So 200. Just getting there now. Okay. So we've got a good start on 1 and 2, get the QNH, and we'll just press B for that. Okay, so let's look at the chart and the departure for some of the constraints. So it's takeoff 20 left, left turn after departure, F-sob is the right turn, then we get to F-cox, and there it's 5,000 feet, above 5,000 feet or below flight level 080. After that it is TIVRO, and then RSOV at or above flight level 240. So what we need to do is dial in flight level 080, 8,000 feet. After that we can then climb to cruise 300. So 8,000 feet goes into the altitude window. Okay, so that's all done. Get a pitot heat and static port heat. flight directors on, we have to hit the go around button on the throttle to get the flight directors on, and you'll see you'll have takeoff, not armed but actually active in the PFD scoreboard. One more thing to do, we need to get the air selector so the aircraft can pressurize, and that goes on to normal, and we are then ready for taxi. On the second page we'll get the radio, nav and comms. That's the TUM button, and we'll get a Squawk 2526, and we'll hit right 5 just to go to Tara resolution advisory. Okay, that's all sorted. And now we can do taxi light, and we're ready for taxiing. Okay, so just check left, check right, and parking brake can come off, and we'll follow the yellow brick road. So there's a hold just here, and a little bit further on to our right there's a hold short for 20 right. However, the threshold to 20 left is just a little bit further on, so we'll come to a stop here. So, okay, let's check that our the approach and departure paths are clear. So, looking to the right, we're clear, apart from the fuel truck. Looking to the left, we're clear. Ahead, we've got a ferry. Let's get our strobe light on. And as I said, we've got the hold for 20 left just a little bit further on, so we'll taxi straight onto 20 left. We'll get our landing light on, and what we'll do, we'll position ourselves as far to the left, that is, as possible, so we don't have any runway behind us. There's nothing more useless than runway behind you, and of course altitude above you. So doing our best to avoid the water. Get lined up in 20 left. Okay, and come to a stop. We need to get the elapsed time on, which will appear here the bottom left of the PFD, and to do that you just press the ET on the EFIS panel, and you can see it now counting up bottom left of the PFD. So I think we're all set. So I'm going to hold it on the brakes, bring the power levers up, make sure that the engines are stable. Our flight director is on, and that's showing us the right pitch to maintain takeoff speed. So let's wind it up. We'll hold it on the brakes, hold it on the brakes, and you'll see takeoff goes green on the PFD engine instruments. Release the brakes, and we're rolling, keeping that centre line, speed's alive. V1, rotate. And we go, positive rate, gear can come up, flaps can come up, nav mode, anticipating the turn to the left. And we'll keep those flight directives centered as much as possible. And rolling out now as that CDI starts to come in. And the primary flight display. Autopilot master can come on, and flight level change is on. Okay. So bring it down to climb power. You see you've got CLB in green. Look at the speed. That should be 220 knots maximum. And the aircraft's maintaining that. Centre the heading knob, good end ship to do that. Okay, we're just coming up to the right turn. Round it goes. Just bring the heading knob round.
Altitude.
And we'll also adjust the speed. But actually we're coming up to the first stop altitude. So we'll let the speed just stay as it is. And the aircraft will just level off, and then we'll just bring the power back on the power levers, until we get past the first waypoint. After EVCOX, you can dial in, but we're above the transition altitude, so we can go to standard pressure, and now we can dial in our cruise level 300, and I'm just going to bring the speed up now. And press flight level change so we can continue our climb. And I'll just finish dialing in the speed 240, and I'll just adjust the altitude knob to read 300. When we get above 10, we can bring the speed up to 270, our best rate of climb. The aircraft is now pitching down to achieve that, and I'll just finish getting flight level 300 set in the altitude. And okay. That's all taken care of. Aircraft is just at 270 now, and it's maintaining a healthy climb over 3,500 feet per minute. Landing light can come off, and we can let the passengers undo their safety belts. Now we're going to zoom out on the nav display, and to do that you go to the EFIS panel where it says range. It's the smaller of the knobs, of the concentric knobs on there, and then you just put your cursor over it and just use the wheel of the mouse. Okay, so we're now at a zoom of 25 miles. We're maintaining a healthy climb rate, 3,200 feet per minute. So it's a busy departure, but I think we managed that reasonably well. Have a quick look around. Side. Okay, so we're just coming up to Tivro, a right turn, and the next waypoint will be 31 miles after that, Asobo, which is at or above flight level 240. It's a good idea to start thinking in terms of what's going to happen next. So the next event will be. It's a good way of sort of mentally preparing yourself for the flight and being in a position to be ahead of the aircraft. Lots of functionality down here. There's a few menus that you can bring up. This is a Collins ProLine system, and it predates touchscreens, of course. So you hit the upper and lower menus, you get different options to select different overlays, for instance weather or constraints, that sort of thing. And you can select weather radar, terrain or map modes, and you can change the presentation of the map as well. So we're just overhead Tivro. And we're just passing flight level 195. Just center our heading bug again. It's always good practice to do that. So the CJ4 doesn't have thrust reversers, but it does have spoilers. We're passing 235. Just look at the cabin pressurization. Altitude 4,200 in the cabin. Climbing at 500 feet per minute in the cabin. Differential 6.9. And the destination elevation is 2,000, just about 2,600 feet. So, you know, that's already fairly high. So just bear that in mind when we do our approach, because the approach is very tight. It's all very close together. Okay, so let's do some more performance management. We'll go to the approach. So perf, then approach, and we need to add in the wind, the outside air temperature, and the QNH at Congonhas. So in Navigraph charts, airports, arrival airport, Congonhas, weather tab, then we read the wind, the temperature, and the QNH. So wind is 040 at 6 knots. Then the QNH 1016. Oh, that's the wrong. There we go. Right, 3 it goes into, and then we need the temperature, which is 24. Okay. The slope 0.0, and then we can go to page 2 of 3. And then we've got our VREF and approach. Okay, and we just press send, and that will send it to the PFD, and it will be on the PFD when we've got gear and flaps down, just where the V-speeds for takeoff were. Okay. Okay, so we're passing flight level 281 for 300, and we're nearing the end of the departure SID at Naxop. that's pretty good performance really to get to 300 in that short space of time. Okay, just coming up to
Altitude.
290, 1,000 to go. Before the aircraft levels out to flight level 300. And we'll just watch what we need to do. We'll bring the power levers back to the cruise setting. We're on climb at the moment. Just going to zoom out on the nav display. So we zoomed in on the nav display. We can see top of descent now, just over 50 miles away from our present position. So not long to go till we actually start coming back down. Just leveling off at 300. And we'll just monitor the speed. We don't want to go over speeding. And again, I can make good use of the speed prediction in magenta, which is the line that moves either above or below the white line, which indicates your current airspeed. And using that, you can actually set your throttles very accurately to maintain a constant airspeed. Okay, so we need to get some a briefing done on the approach, and here we've got the arrival. So it begins at Ibdal, then on to Manlo, out to below flight level 260, and then on to Ukdan, then Ogtal, out to below flight level 120, then we've got the two waypoint Sierra Papa 099 and Sierra Papa 101, both of which are at flight level 090. And last we've got Kongu, which is an altitude 5,500 feet or above. Now we've got the approach plate, begins at Kongu 5,500, then goes to Gursu on the right base 4,700 to establish on the localizer, which is course 169, frequency 1093. So we need to get those two dialed in. Right, so we go to the tuner, which we've got on the Copilot's FMC 1093, and that goes into nav 1. And then on the EFIS panel, we're just looking at the top of descent, and it's about 40 miles away. Top of the EFIS panel, we're just going to change the mode. We're going to change it to nav. Okay, and the aircraft, you'll see, has gone to roll mode, which means it'll keep wings level, but it's no longer tracking the flight plan. And all we need to do here is to adjust the course to 169, and we'll do that with a course knob here. So we'll just hold it in until we get to 169. There, and 169 we have, and then once we've done that, we can press the nav button on the EFIS panel again, but you'll see that it stays in roll mode, and we need to put it back into LNAV by hitting the nav button. Okay, now it's reacquired LNAV, and it's just picking up, just reacquiring the flight plan. Our speed is just climbing up just slightly under the red line, and our top of descent is getting closer, so I'll be reducing power just to keep the speed in check, because as we start pointing downhill the speed will increase, and because we're so close to the red line we don't want to go over speed. And really I should have moved the throttles back to the cruise detent Not that it makes much difference, I don't think, from a technical standpoint, but it certainly, we wouldn't be quite that fast had I done so. So just reminding ourselves of the first constraint, which is out or below flight level 260. I'm going to dial that now into the altitude window, and again this knob here really does accelerate very quickly. Just hold it in for a little bit and it shoots past the altitude you're trying to pre-select. So we'll bring that down to 260, but you'll see that the aircraft has red ahead. It's got 260 already written in the altitude, top of the altitude tape. Just zooming into the nav display. Got 12.5 to run. Things are going to happen quite quickly. We need to tell the aircraft also that we've got to go into VNAV mode, and there's a VNAV button just on the panel. You'll see it will change to V altitude and path will be armed in white. Okay. So we've got 260 dialed into the altitude. We're below the red line on the speed tape, so we will bring the power levers back a little bit. Now we've got the diamond appearing on the altitude, and you can see it above. We're below that diamond, what you'd expect to be at cruise, but that will start to come down, and when it gets near the middle, about there, it will the aircraft will start descending automatically because we're in VNAV mode. So not long to go, and I'll need to bring back the power levers shortly, because otherwise we might go over speeding. So power levers coming back, speed again is coming down. I'm using magenta speed prediction, and the aircraft is now at top of descent and it started to descend. Okay. And again, that speed prediction is very, very useful. You can set your throttles very accurately using that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is have a quick look at the arrival, the star, because we need to remind ourselves of the weather. And here is the Congonhas weather. QNH is 1018, and what we're going to do, we're going to dial that into the Barrow reference. And you can see here that actually you've got another, it's like a pre-select. We're still on standard pressure, but then the Barrow that we've just entered is there. So when we get to the waypoint where we need to transition from a flight level to an altitude, it will be pre-selected. So when we press the Barrow knob, that QNH will be the current QNH. So it's quite a nice feature.
Altitude.
Our speed 270 or thereabouts, and we're just approaching 260, and we've only got a mile or so to run. And the next altitude is at or below flight level 120, so I'll just dial in 120, but actually the aircraft has already leveled off, which has put me now behind the curve, but it's actually a good thing for me to show you this. So continue dialing in 120 on the altitude selector. The altitude has leveled off, and the VNAV profile, we're above it. The diamond has gone down, so we've got to catch that up. So we go to vertical speed mode and use the knurled wheel to dial in a vertical speed sufficient for us to catch that diamond that has now disappeared. Notice that we're still in VNAV mode, okay? but it's crossed out. So we are now vertical speed mode, still in VNAV mode, and when we catch that diamond up, VNAV will take over. It will click back in. So we are now vertical speed mode. We're coming down and hopefully catching that diamond. I'm not sure I can see it moving quite yet, but I'm sure it won't be too far off. And I was only just a little bit behind the curve in getting 120 dialed into the altitude window. I wasn't that late. Just shows you how you got to stay ahead of the aircraft. Right, the diamond is moving now on the vertical nav profile, and when that comes in towards the middle, VNAV will take over. Our speed is about 260. I'm happy with that. We are pointing downhill, but we're not in a great hurry. So here comes that diamond. When he gets to the middle, VNAV will take over. That's the theory anyway. Nav display is not showing anything useful, so let's just zoom. So we've got at least one waypoint in there. Now it's showing something useful. Now look at the diamond, it's just approaching the middle, and hopefully VNAV will take over. So watch the scoreboard any second now. There you go, VNAV is back on. So that's the sort of thing that might happen. You might find yourself levelling off because you weren't quick enough with the altitude knob, and you know in the CJ4 you can just use the vertical speed to adjust your rate of descent to catch that diamond up. Okay, so we're about 270 knots descending. We've got 120 dialed in, and that's also read by the FMC. That's in magenta above the speed tape. Okay, so let's have a look how they're doing in the back. Tell you what, I've got a better idea. Let's go and join them in the back. So here we've got the Woozle Mod interactive display, flight information display. You've got a little bit of information about the CJ4. Some useful stats, I guess, as a passenger you'd be interested in. And hit the back button, then you've got the flight map. And it reads SimBrief, and it shows you your route. You can zoom in and out, and shows you your altitude and other useful statistics. Settings where you put your SimBrief ID in, and cabin control to give you some lighting, window shades. So it's all quite fun, really. They're all happy, and I guess we better get them strapped in. I don't know how many seats this has got. It's probably got, well, it's 6 there, one just to our left, and one in the loo. The one in the loo, I think, is belted, so it's actually legal to put a passenger in there. Who would want to be sitting in there, I guess. So anyway, a little bit about the cabin. Back to the business end. So passing flight level 170. Just coming up to Ukdan. And it's a right turn to Ogtal, at or below flight level 120. Then it needs to be level at 090 for those 2 waypoints. So we're gonna, the FMC is reading ahead. We're just looking to get to Ogtal at or below flight level 120. And I'm just going to dial in flight level 090 because I'm going to allow VNAV to manage the bit between Ogtal and Sierra Papa 099 because I don't want to be behind the curve as I was at the previous waypoint, which was Manlo. Okay, so we're just coming up now to Ukdan. So nice healthy rate of descent, about 265 on the speed. and because we're now sort of south of being the airport, what we will see soon is the ILS superimposed on the nav display on the HSI. You'll see it there, it'll be like a light blue in colour. So we're just going to center this heading bug, always good to do that, good airmanship. And we're sort of south of being the airport, and at some point soon we will see the ILS appear on the nav display at the bottom of the PFD. So we've got 120 dialed in or below, and that's mirrored up there. 9,000 set in the altitude window. And very soon we'll see that ILS appear. So we're bang on the vertical profile, and it's a very short star. It really is. It's a very short downwind, and the approach goes straight into the feather. So it's all going to happen really quickly. And remember, the altitude of the airport is 2,500 feet, 2,600 feet really. So we've got to subtract that from our altitude, and bear in mind that actually, you know, there's we're 11,000 feet above the ground. You've got to, you know, keep that in mind. Right. So the ILS has just come in. If you look now, you'll see the CDI of the ILS moving across as we go over the, you know, south side of the runway. So we're directly sort of to the south of the runway, and you've got the the blue coloured localizer diamond moving now in the right position. So this is all going to happen very, very quickly, and the glide slope diamond will appear at some point in the downwind. So Kongu at 5,500, Gersu 4,700, and as you can see, we're going to join the ILS right on the feather. So I'm not expecting to be below the glide slope, and if we are, it won't be for very long. As I said, this is a very tight approach. It's all designed to be quick for arriving aircraft. You know, they don't want to be in a big long pattern. They just want to get on the ground and unload their passengers and board new passengers. So it's a very, very short and sweet arrival. So we're just coming up to Ogtal, and we are below flight level 120. That's fine. It's exactly right. So just coming up to Ogtal, and speed is looking good, 250 on the speed as we just come below flight level 100. Get our landing lights on, and we'll centre our heading bug. And the aircraft is just 1,000 to go before getting to flight level 090, and speed is 240, so I'm happy with that.
Altitude.
And I'm going to let the aircraft slow down. We don't want to be fast on this downwind. As I said, it's a short downwind, and we're going to join the ILS right on the feather, so we don't want to be fast. So 235 on the speed. And we're just on the downwind leg at the moment. And we're just levelling off flight level 090. If you remember, the transition altitude here is 8,000 feet. Just levelling off now. And speed is 230, and I'm going to let it decay. We've got flight limiting speed, it's just appearing on the speed tape. Right, so we're past Sierra Papa 099, and we're now going towards Sierra Papa 101, and we're bang on the right altitudes. The VNAV profiling this is very good. Speed is decaying 210 knots. Happy with that. I'm going to dial in now 5,500. I've just overshot it a bit. 5,500. The aircraft will continue descending once it gets past Sierra Papa 101, which is very, very soon. And we're below flat limiting speed. Which is good. And we'll keep it there. So the aircraft will start to descend any moment. Just zoom in on the display. There we go. Descending now to altitude 5,500. Because we're descending to an altitude, we can actually go ahead and select the local QNH by pressing the barrow knob. I'll do that shortly. There we go. So we're now on the local QNH. Just flashing until we get below 8,000 feet indicated. And speed is below the flat limiting speed, so I'm happy with that. So we're abeam the airport. In fact, there it is. Just there, just to our left. Oh, right. Misty and murky, isn't it? Okay, so we've got about 6 miles to run or something on the downwind leg, and we're just passing 7,700 on the QNH. After we get to Comgu, it's a right turn onto Gersu. So I'm going to dial in 4,700 now on the altitude window, because I can see the FMC has got 5,500 written in magenta above the altitude tape. So I've got 4,700 dialed in anticipation of being at that altitude when we arrive on the feather. Right, so just 5 miles left on the downwind. I've got the altitude button just above the altitude knob. If I press that, it will level off at the current altitude. So, you know, in pre-selecting an altitude, just keep an eye on things. We're trusting the electronics to do the right thing, but we need to know how to intervene. So the altitude knob will just hold us at the present altitude. And notice for much of this flight, we've had our head in the cockpit. That's where you need to have your head. You need to be focused on your instruments. You need to be ahead of the aircraft. You need to be anticipating what's on the, you know, the approach chart and what's going to happen next. And we've got, we've just put one stage of flap down. We've got an angle of attack indicator now appearing to the left of the speed tape. Just started our base turn. Our speed is just on the flat limiting speed, and the aircraft is continuing its descent to 4,700 on the QNH. And you can see the blue diamond for the glide slope of the ILS is just right in the middle, so it's pretty much where I expected it to be. Okay, I'm going to arm approach mode, so we've got localizer and glide slope in white, they're armed. And when we get onto the feather, and as that CDI comes to the middle, they will go green. They will go into the upper line and they'll go green in colour. And it might happen both at the same time or very close to one another. Okay, so speed is looking good. And So we're midway down the base turn. And we're just coming up 5,300 feet, 600 to go. And you can see the QNH has stopped flashing. Okay, and we've got terrain display on the primary flight display and weather display on the nav display. There's not much weather to show. Okay, so we're just turning now onto the ILS. And we are at 4,800, sending 4,700. Bang on target. Speed is 155. And the ILS, the localizer CDI, is going to start moving any second, and when it gets to the second dot we can call ourselves established, and that mode will be active. So there you go, it's just become active. Glide slope is not yet active, it's still white, but that will come in any second. There it goes. Okay, so we're fully established, ILS 17 right. And now we can dial in the missed approach altitude, 5,500. So let's dial that in, 5,500. Okay, and we can go full flaps and gear down. Full flaps indicating, gear down. We're looking for 3 greens. Decision height 2,800. 3 greens we have, and you'll see on the speed tape that we've got our approach and VREF speeds shown very clearly. Okay, so speed is good, about 120, and we're holding the localizer and glide slope nicely. And we really wouldn't normally look out below the decision height. This is precision approaches an ILS. But I think we're okay in this instance. So there we go. Runway dead. Oh, it's very misty, but there's a runway dead ahead. And let's switch the autopilot off and enjoy flying the aircraft on the ILS. Autopilot coming off any second. So we're just looking through the final checks. Cabin is secure, landing lights are on, clearance has been received.
Autopilot.
Okay. So autopilot off. This is Radio City Centre Airport, as you can see. Oh, and we're through that layer of mist. Slightly right of centre line. Okay. Short finals, 50 feet or so above the threshold, and holding it off, and down we go. Okay, not my best. But I'll take it. Speed brake's coming out. Slowing down will make this turn off here. Okay, so we'll come to a stop the other side of the hold. Follow the yellow brick road. Just come to a quick stop. Okay, so non-essentials. Let's stow the speed brakes, stow the flaps, or track the flaps. We'll taxi light on, strobe light can come off, and we'll follow the taxi sign. I saw just parked in our 9 o'clock another CJ4, so I figured that's where we'd park. But to get there, I think we have to go over a bit of road. So I'm now going to go into Italian mode and drive along where service vehicles only should drive, but you know, I'm allowed. I've got a license to be a hooligan on the ground. Not really. Okay, so there's the CJ4 ahead of us. I'm going to taxi at speed so nobody sees us, or at speed so they don't read my tail number, and we'll just come to a stop by this other Citation jet. So, welcome to Congonhas, Sierra Bravo, Sierra Papa. Let's give it a bit of left engine differential thrust to keep the turn going. And okay. Come to a stop. Parking brake coming on. Okay, so we've just come to a stop, parking brake is on, and we'll just switch off some of the non-essentials, and that would be the taxi light and the strobe light. And to shut the engines down, you open the guards and press the button from run to stop, then close the guards. That's it. That's number 2, there's number 1, and now we can let them out of their seats, or beacon light can come off, we let them out of their seats, and I could switch the transponder off, and so on and so forth. Let's open the door for them though, and then we'll just watch their happy smiley faces. Oh, look at that, they are happy, very happy. Wait till they get the bill though, then they won't be happy. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.